Now let's take a look at the performance of close-up cardiographic. You have to start by forcing a card. If you already know how to force a card, then skip ahead. You don't need this information. If you don't know how to force a card, here's a very simple method. You have the card that you wish to force on top of the pack. You can show the spectator the cards are all different, and then ask them to cut the cards. But when they cut, you take the lower half, turn it at right angles to the upper half, and put it at a cross like this. This is known as the cross-cut force. You now exercise time misdirection, so they forget which half is which by taking out your pad and going, now I'm going to try drawing a picture on my pad. Now let's take a look. Yes, I think I have it. I'm not quite sure, but let's take a look at the card that you cut to, and now you lift this up and let them take this card, which of course will be the force card. Take a look at that card, and let me see how well I did. I've drawn a picture of the ace of spades, and they say, no, it isn't the ace of spades. And I go, no, I didn't say that was your card. I just said I've drawn a picture of the ace of spades. This is actually the beginning of a drawing of a deck of cards. Here, in the background, is the rest of the deck, and your card is the 14th from the top. Okay, you're not very impressed. How about I do a little bit of magic for you? Watch, look. The 14th card from the top of the deck. Slowly rises up out of the pack. Now that's really printed on there, it doesn't come off. In fact, I'll tell you what I shall do. I'll let you have that as a souvenir. You can check that nothing slides in or out, up or down. It's just a drawing. And thank you very much. Now here's some handling tips. The first one is when you open the pad initially, you have to push the slide down and hold it in position. This is done while the spectator is selecting the card, which is why the cut force or an out of your hands force is a good idea. So while the spectator is cutting the cards, you say, I'm going to make a drawing, and I simply push it down with my thumb and then hold it in position. Now, if it doesn't go all the way down, that's quite all right. I can cheat it down a little bit more, because I'm going to make a drawing on this pad. I think of a playing card. And at that point, I simply just push it down with my index finger all the way in. Now, I'm left-handed, so I'm doing this as a left-handed person would. If you're right-handed, of course, you will be on the other side, holding it like this. It doesn't make any difference. Either way works just fine. So now you have the piece pushed down. You're ready to apparently make the drawing. You don't actually draw, you just sort of pretend to. I do recommend you actually move the pen in the same position as if you were actually drawing, because it gives you the proper timing and the proper appearance of your hand. Once you've done that, you now have to let the piece rise. Now, this is sort of a knack. It requires practice and a delicate touch. I'm simply going to ease up the pressure on my thumb, and as I do that, the card will rise up. You can stop at any time you want, and you have to practice a little bit. It is, as I say, a very delicate touch. In fact, you almost have to think it up, and you actually can almost fool yourself with it. So once the piece is risen up, and I like slow, I think it creates, that makes the magical moment stretch out a little bit longer. Once the piece is risen up, you then have to make the switch. And the switch is done by pushing the cover across, and remember there's a duplicate giveaway sheet underneath the gaff. So by pushing across, I'm pushing the cover and the duplicate sheet. I'll say this is actually printed on there, and I'll run my fingers across it. Reach down, take the cover and the sheet beneath it, bring them over, thumb off the gaff, and then bring this back and tear it off. From the front, it looks like this. From the back view, it looks like this. Don't bother to close it up. You can just put it away as it is. You're going to have to open it later to reset it anyway. As far as performance notes go, a couple of things you might be interested in knowing. One is when the card rises, you can hold it either this way or with the thumb at the bottom. And this is good if you've got people, if you're strolling and you've got people standing with you. If you're working in a restaurant and you have a table in front of you, you can also hold it in front of you this way, and you can rise it from both of these grips. Now, as far as the drawing on the edge goes, the actual drawing itself is permanent, but the drawing that you do on the edge is done with a dry erase, a wet erase, I'm sorry, and that needs to be cleaned off. There's a number of ways you can accomplish that. You can take a Kleenex and just wet it in a bottle with a bottle of water and wipe it off. On the internet you can get these finger bowl moist wipes or moist towelettes, and you can use that. That will also work very nicely for cleaning it off. Or you can use the method that your mother used when she had to wipe a smudge of dirt off your nose when you was little. Just lick it, and off it comes. So there's a few different ways to accomplish that. Of course, after you've performed a number of times, you need to replace the sheets in the reservoir. With the trick, it came a bunch of replacement sheets, and this is how you insert them. The first thing you do is unscrew the spiral from the front of the pad. Or I should say from the top of the pad. Remove the cover, remove the gaff rising sheet, and open up the reservoir. Put your new pieces in, close it up, and reinstall everything. However, while I have it apart, I'm going to take apart the actual rising page because you may want to change the band, the elastic band in there at one point or another. Hopefully this will last you for the rest of the life of the pad. But if it should snap or break, there was a couple included, and I hope you didn't throw them away, around the pad when you received it. It's a pretty standard magician's rubber band. It's a number 18 pure gold band, which is what we use for Crazy Man's handcuffs, so it's a popular band. The way to take it apart is very simple. The band goes through two of the holes at the top of the pad. I'm simply going to, and there's slits cut leading to those holes. So by pulling the elastic band up, I can pull it through those slits and let it fall down inside. The next thing to do is to put my finger in to the opening here, carefully, and pull open the tape that's holding it on either side. So there's tape holding it along this edge and tape along this edge. The tape only goes along these top edges. It doesn't go all the way down. There's a reason for that. So once you have it open, push the slide all the way down, and then remove it out of the bottom of the Tyvek tube which it resides. So that's the gimmick. You can simply replace the band now by pulling it out of the two slits and then putting a new band in it. when you replace it, it's a good idea to add a little bit of zinc stearate or fanning powder. That will help it rise smoothly. To return the whole thing, you simply slide the gimmick, the 3 of diamonds rising piece, into the Tyvek tube. Don't lose track of the end of the rubber band, keep a hold of that. You have to stretch it slightly. Push the piece as far down as it will go, and then open up the slit and let it rise up through on the other side. Now, just simply bring the back up to the front. At the same time, bring up the elastic band, clip it through the 2 holes, and put the thing back together. You'll notice that when it's correctly positioned, there's a little tiny sliver of white showing on either side. The reason for that is that it doesn't show the red cover-up at all when you're holding the pad open in front of the spectator. Here's some tips on tuning up. Not necessary at all, but nice little touches. I'm very detail oriented, so this is what I do. You really don't need to. The little rising piece has a black edge around it, but the actual edges of the piece are not white. If you wish, you can take a regular Sharpie and simply black those edges in with the Sharpie. It's a small detail, but does help a little teeny tiny bit if somebody's looking at you through a microscope. Also, with the top edge of the cut here, not the only one edge of it, I'll simply put a piece of paper down inside there, and then run the pen along that top edge to black that also. These are small details that are absolutely not necessary, but if you feel up to it, they're nice. One more thing. This drawing is not printed on there, it's actually drawn with a pen. We use these Sharpie Industrial Super Permanent Extreme markers, but even so, continued use will eventually wear the color down until it becomes more grayish, or slightly grayish. So you can simply go over with a Sharpie to blacken them in, again, carefully, if that occurs. Now let's take a look at a couple of other bits you can do to tune this up as you wish. I told you about putting some fanning powder on the rubber band and on the front and the back of the slide. Now, you'll recall also, as I mentioned, that the tape is only along the top edges, which leaves the bottom half of this open. As you can see, it's open in here. I'll put the pen in so you can see it there. It's open on this part, here and here. This forms like a slight belly on the piece, and that allows the piece to slide up nice and easily. If during transport or packing, or maybe it's sitting in your drawer for a long time, if this flattens out, the piece may not want to rise smoothly. So simply putting your finger in between there and opening this up a little bit on either side will alleviate that problem. So that's a few little tips on tuning up. One more thing. If you find that when you try and make the switch that it's sort of hard to move it forward and backwards, you can take some of these giveaway sheets out. Take about 10 or 15 or so out. 10 will be plenty. And what that does is it alleviates any binding when you try and make the switch, because there's less thickness now to the finished pad. There's a greater gap. Okay. There's a greater gap between the two, which means that this now flips nice and easily and smoothly. So that's about it. Thank you very much for buying my close-up Cardiographic. It's a strong effect, and I know you'll get a lot of good use out of it. If you have any issues at all with it that I haven't covered in this tutorial, please feel free to contact me, magiccraft.com. I'll run that along the bottom of the screen so you can see it. Thanks again, and have a great time.